Hi guys, Mondion Astral Oracles here, and I'm just going to talk in this video, like doing an update on where I'm at with the channel and expressing my gratitude for you being here because it's 2 years ago I started posting channeling videos on YouTube, or I think this Saturday it was 2 years ago, but and ever since then it's been a very interesting journey, and at the moment I'm feeling all born anew with it. Like I'm just enjoying it so much, and this past week or so I've been doing a lot of personal work, and that I think is so special, like so magical and intense and transformative and enriching and enlivening and warm and lovely. Like I just think it's such a special practice, and I often have to pinch myself to just remind myself that I'm not dreaming, but this is actually what I get to do. And so yeah, the first year was of course very much also like exploring channeling for me, and then the weird thing has been that this year 2021 has very much been very unstable, as you've noticed if you followed me around the globe, or just to Spain and Mexico, and then and then the channeling has sort of acted as an anchor for me. So in that way, I also feel it's been very interesting what probably sort of happens to a person once you do something, that it also gets to be a trade and a skill, and a profession. So it's like just having to learn how to answer that question where people ask me what I do, and then evaluating like, okay, I don't want to frighten them, but I don't want to be dishonest at the same time. And English, fortunately, has that wonderful catch-all term of being a psychic, for instance. But it's just been so interesting, and of course, I'm also deeply grateful that. That the practice and you guys and your generosity and the people working with me in personal sessions have well paid my way through Mexico, for instance. That was magical, like channeling my way through Mexico during the COVID crisis. I learned a lot from that, and it's good to be home in many ways, and the air here is nice and cool, and it's getting dark, so I feel it's much easier to sleep, but it's also of course less noisy, bright and lively and vital in many ways. So let's see where let's see where I'm carried off to next. But for the moment, it's very good to be here. And I also practical announcements in the sort of messy, random way that I often present things, is that the live stream announced for 111 is moved to 311, so it'll be Wednesday the 3rd of November, but we'll still be working with Merlin if you join in. And then like I also just want to extend my gratitude to all of you, and not all of you who've donated. That's really been magical for me, that some of you are um, well extracting value from the practice, of receiving something that's valuable, and where you would actually consider supporting me in this work. That's been almost overwhelming to me, and a very special lesson for me also in sort of um, yes, experiencing those words of the Lord in practice, that ask and ye shall receive. So in that sense, it's been very beautiful for me to see how the community have grown around the practice, and there are people who I work with regularly, and we have sort of explored this, and I sort of get to be instrumental in connecting people to some of those transformative forces, and they play a positive role in their lives, and are hopefully then, or or certainly touching others with it. And I also wanted to express my gratitude for so many of you who, well, of course, all all the usual stuff with liking and sharing and subbing, which is very appreciated that you are here, but also your beautiful comments. And often I um, because I'm often a little socially awkward. Also, I don't know always know what to write, but I always read them and appreciate them. And when I sort of pause just to reflect on the fact that what I'm doing here is somehow provoking positively to people to leave these kind of heartfelt comments or sharing your experiences and quite a few also write to me with support or encouragement or things that you want to share and that's just been magical, but because it's like my own experience with this practice is of course also that it's um, a little vulnerable, and by that I don't only mean that it's kind of a heartfelt sharing where you enter a sort of intimate space and you have to close your eyes, and for that reason I also found it a perhaps a little too anxiety prodding to go out in the Mexican landscape where there's all kinds of crazy bugs and snakes and stuff afoot, and also just often very loud Mexicans showing up out of the blue. So there is that element of vulnerability where you have to go into it, and of course sharing that with others, it's to some extent also vulnerable. But I actually feel very comfortable with that part of it. But it's actually more like working it into my identity as something where I kind of wake up in the morning and go, yeah, like, okay, what's what's it about life, and then I go, yeah, well, okay, you're kind of a vessel for strange non-physical intelligences that hail from other dimensions or frequency bands of the multiverse, and who have benevolent messages to share with humanity, and is also able to offer personal help to people. And that's of course like a very weird story to sort of reconnect yourself to, and that's also why I feel like in many ways I have this spiral experience in my life, and my impression is that a lot of people actually do that a lot of patterns sort of reiterate themselves at certain points, and there we get to see them from new perspectives and work with them. And here I feel I'm in many ways coming full circle. And it's also been interesting, I would say, which is a euphemism for challenging, or just kind of difficult this year, partially being, of course, colported into another language, and trying to like navigate the Latin culture and the restrictions down here, down there, and trying to work that out. But also yes, then like being transported back and having to deal with your family. So it's been like, okay, dealing confronted with the confronted with the world, and confronted with your upbringing, right? And then those things have sort of played into my experience this year, and there it's also been very interesting that sort of the thing that I return to is, yeah, well, you can always relate to the Arcturians, right? And then of course this channel and the live streams we do, where I think it's so amazing. And if you're new and watching this, then please join us, and don't feel put off or intimidated by the fact that it might also seem like there's a lot of people who've grown acquainted with it, and we sort of have an energy and a tune and a tone in there, which is just so beautiful and loving. And I, for instance, I remember last time, like I have these flashes, but a lot of it is also hazy for me. But I do remember last time where Laura, for instance, just shared some things with someone else who was going through hardships that like she related and she understood, and you know it's just that being part of a forum that somehow created itself um, like through me with all of you who's also manifesting this into existence, where there is sort of this loving tone, and where we can gather around something that's a little, of course, esoteric, but also precious to, I know, to all of us who are here, who is like these upper realms of weird mystifying experiences, and higher dimensions of love and understanding, and peace and serenity, which of course is sort of a vibration that appeals to both me and everyone that I'm fortunate enough to connect to through this work. So it's been two very interesting years, and as it often goes in the live streams and in sessions, and I remind myself is that it's this weird pace where if you, yeah, if you ever garden, then you know that it always seems like your plants are not progressing, but at the same time, like week by week, they just get bigger and bigger, and at some point there are beans or peas or raspberries or whatever on the stalks, and you can go pick them, and that's really how I feel that, of course, day by day it's. Like I have my sadhana, my spiritual practice, like meditation, and trying to get some exercise, and doing the channeling, and that stuff. But other than that, it's a kind of an open life. But when I sort of look at it for week by week, it's just it's the most extreme changes I seem to have undergone, and I find myself moving more and more into, when I'm just my own conscious being, this sort of state of equanimity or acceptance, where it's just yeah, well, we'll see how this turns out. Like there's no guarantee for outcomes, but at least I'm not cold and I'm not hungry. So what's the problem here? And that's a very interesting place to move in, and I, of course, am also a little mesmerized, and I would say almost charmed or amused by the fact that sort of the way to get to this stillness of mind is sort of traveling through all these galactic exteriorities of very weird phenomenon, and entities that have funny names, and, and sort of playful attitudes. So that's also just a very beautiful process to be a part of. And I think I expressed everything I wanted to say, and I hope my gratitude came through to all of you, because I really feel like somehow, at least my personal experience is that the quality in the work is rising as this practice also it deepens and becomes something that I feel comfortable and skilled in, and that's very interesting. And then, of course, this um, sort of beautiful, heartfelt sharing. So a lot of people have been kind enough to encourage me to do different things, and maybe get a Patreon profile. So we'll see what happens in the coming future, and where it goes. But I wanted to thank all of you for being here, and then also I can just share. Well, it's partially. Well, something seems to be coming up in a lot of people's lives, and recently I've had a surprising amount of people who felt that a crisis they had been dealing with had sort of grown to a proportion where they really needed this clarity from a session, and that's just to say that it manifests completely differently in different people's lives, but there is this sort of energy of the material world building up to a type of crash in our own personal spaces, and that's very rough to deal with. So it's just, if you're out there and feeling challenged, I transmit my love and compassion to you, and I hope you're dealing with it in an okay way. And then here's to 2022 also, and the beautiful numerology coming up. So of course also approaching the later year, I think I'll be doing some energy forecasts on what we can expect. And yes, there are quite a few suggestions that I still want to bring through, and I'm working on the Plant Spirit series, and often I put them down somewhere, and then they aren't in the back of my head. If to bring them forward at a convenient point, it is very intuitively guided. But if you have sort of suggestions or things you would like me to look at or comment on, or have some entity work with, you're welcome to drop a line in a comment or whatever, and then it will sort of be added to the list and maybe turn up at some point. So thank you for all your beautiful energy, and bless your beautiful hearts, and much love to you, everyone out there. I'm looking forward to another year of channeling. Peace.